We're going to talk about access control list. And when we talk about access control list, we're talking about security, right? Data security. How to secure your data from unauthorized users, right? So when we talk about security, the security has to be implemented at multiple levels and in multiple ways, right? So multiple levels meaning we have this authentication done, we have authorization done, we have for authentication we have credentials, user, password, authorization you have roles, then you have groups and rules that limit users to access certain stuff into ServiceNow. Then you have group roles and you have user roles combination. Then you have few more things. You have contextual security. You have conditional security. Contextual security meaning using scripts we limit access onto different screens. So is conditional security, script limit access on specified conditions. Next is ACL Access Control list. Apart from that, we have SSO, single sign on. We have OAuth that we can implement. This is a Google's authentication mechanism. Maybe mechanism. OAuth is that which is available there. You can talk about ACL implementation, which is secure socket layer. You can talk about encryption. You can talk about SSL we have done, securing web services integration, right? So we are talking about multiple levels of security that we need to implement onto our ServiceNow applications. Okay. Out of that, one is access control list. Right. So the access control list, as it says, is a rule that will allow somebody to access particular resource, particular table, form, data, field, everything. For example, I have this resource management dev application created. In order to access this application, somebody must have a role. So if I go in here in the resource management dev application, you can see that there is one role associated, which is RM dev user. Right? So if somebody has this RM dev user role, that person can access this resource management application. I have my user administration section here. In the user administration, you can see I have one RM user created, and this RM user has the RM user role associated, RM dev user role associated with it. So if I jump onto this user, and there is only this role provided to this user. So this user is basically ESS user, self-service user, or maybe this is end user, but then to this end user we have added one more role, which is RM dev user. So let's go ahead and impersonate and see if this user is able to see our resource management dev application or not. See this? Apart from the self-service password reset and collaboration application, the user is also able to see the resource management dev, right? The resource management dev application is available for this user because this user does have that RM dev user role. I'll clip this photo from here because I want to show you this later. You see this? These are the list of modules. Module number 1, which is search project. Module number 2, which is administration. Module number 3 is projects. Right? 3 modules are getting displayed to the RM user. Right? We have this RM user, and we are displaying only 3 modules to that user. But do we have 3 modules? No, we have more modules than that. I have create new project, I have search project, I have projects, I have problem tickets, but I do not see this create new project module into this RMDev users login, right? So what we have done, we have made it hidden for the RMDev user, all right? RM user. How we have done that? Just like the role association for application, we have role association for module as well. So if you go into edit module, you can see that the role required for this module access is admin right now. If I go ahead and remove this admin from here, I do done, save it, and then I go and impersonate the RMDev user again, that user should be able to see the create new project module now. Right? So unlike the previous screen where the user had just search project, administration project, and projects, now the user can see the create new project. See this? I want you to pay notice here. Pay attention. So see, this create new project is now available. And it means that to access this module, we added a role, and that role was not given to the user, so the user was not able to see this. But now that we removed that role from that module, the user will be able to see this module here. Let's click on this. So this is a create new project module. If I click on this, I can create a new project record into the table. Let's see if the user is able to do so. All right. No, the user is not able to do so. User cannot create a record into this table. I do not have a submit button. All these fields are grayed out, right? All these fields are empty, but grayed out. I cannot fill in information into this record, right? See this? You agree that we cannot write record into this table, this form, project record? I cannot do so because this is not permitted to this user, right? You see this? Even if the user is able to access this module, the user is not able to write onto that. If I jump onto the projects table, can I create a new record here? I do not see this new button here. See? No new button available here. So what has been done here is the user is allowed access to the projects table, but the user cannot create record onto the table. Creating a record is not permitted. Okay? So how do we ensure that? So to ensure that, the create permission of a user, if the user can create a record into the table only if that user has appropriate access control defined for that record. Now if I select this record here and try to delete, can I delete this? I cannot delete this either, and this is not permitted. If I go in here, try to delete other one, I can delete this one. Why? Because there is one access control rule which is reading that if the project record, if the project owner is the logged in user, then only the user can delete it. Right? So you can see here, RM user is the logged in user, resource management user is the logged in user, and the project owner is resource management user, then only I am allowing to delete this record. If I go for any other record, first one, and for the first record here, the project owner is able tutor. So since the project owner is the able tutor, I cannot delete it because I am not able tutor. I am resource management user, right? So this is what access control list will do for you, right? These are the rules which define what piece of information you are able to see and what piece of operation you are able to perform on the data, right? So this is a combination of role. It is a combination of a condition. It is a combination of a script. Those three things will, create our access control rule, and according to that access control rule only, any particular user will be able to either access, meaning read a record from the table, right? Update a record from the table, delete a record from on the table, or do all the CRUD operations: read, update, delete, create. So right now, what I can do is I cannot create a record into the table. I cannot create it. All right. I cannot delete a record from the table where I am not the project owner. So this is another level of security that I have applied. So I am restricting the delete operation to only those users who are the owners of that record, right? Project owner of that record. Make sense?
Yep.
Shashank, is it okay?
Yes, Rahul.
Okay. So that is access control rule. So let's see how we can create that. And what is the level of control that we have when we have the access control rule? The level of control you have seen already, right? You've seen that I was able to restrict it to the record level and to the field level as well. In the record, we have several fields. So I am able to control the field level as well, right? Wherein I am controlling if the project owner is Rahul, then only Rahul can delete that record. So I am having a control at the field level. So that is access control rule. Now, this access control rules, these rules get created the moment you create a table, right? So the default access control rules will be created. So if I jump onto my studio, so at the maximum, there are 4 access control rules, not at the maximum. There are 4 access control rules getting created every time we create a table, right? You can add more access control rules to that, but by default, 4 access control rules will be created. So let's see. In this application, in this example, you can see that we have one table which is known as projects table that we have created. Look at this data model section. In the data model, inside table, we have a table created as projects. Right, so we have this projects table in here. Right, now what this project table does is it allows you to create records into the project for the record for the projects that you are creating within your organization. So this is holding the project's information in the project table. Now the moment I created this project table, what happened is by default I also created two things. One is a role, another one is a set of access controls, right? You see this? On the table that we created, x underscore 60982 underscore rm1 project, one role was created, which is RM dev user. Another set of access control rules are created. There are 4 access control rules that you can see, and this is for CRUD operation. We are talking about create, read, update, and delete, right? So 4 access control rules are here by default, right? But these are default ones. If I select this one and I jump onto the record here and try to find out what this is, I'll be able to understand what this access rule says to me, right? But first of all, let's talk about the definition of access control rule. The definition of access control rule says that access control rules allow access to the specified resource if all 3 of these checks evaluate to true. All 3 of these. Number 1, if the user has one of the roles specified into the role list. So you see this, there is a requires rule. So there is a role list that you can apply in here. So if you have multiple roles, the user must have at least one role, then only this access control rule will be applicable to that user. right? Then only that user can access that resource. Okay. So the first condition is that the user must have at least one role from the role list available. The next condition is the conditions in the conditions field should evaluate to true. So there is a condition field you can see here. This is condition field, right? So now it says that if the condition section that you have here, whatever condition you have into this, if this condition is fulfilled and the user has the specified role from the role list, right? And the third thing is, if there is a script written onto the access control, and if the script is written, then you have to evaluate that script, and if that evaluation happens, that condition matches, then only the access control rule will allow the user to access the resource, right? Access or whatever access control operation you are performing. For example, this is a create operation we are performing, right? So when we create our access control rules, we type in operation as well. We choose operation, what operation we want to allow to the user actually. So here what we are allowing is the create operation onto the table. All right. So this is a create operation that we are creating onto the projects table. This create operation will only work if the user has admin role. That is the reason when you go back to your resource management user, you see that the resource management user is unable to create a record into the projects table because the rule required for creating that record into the projects table is admin, and that resource management user doesn't have any admin role. That resource management user has that user was an ESS user earlier, but we provided access to a particular resource management application. So he has slightly more access than the self-service user, right? So that is what it is talking about. It is saying that, hey, in order to create a record into the table, you should be an administrator. If you are not an administrator, I will not allow you to create a record into the table. See this? As an administrator, I can go into this create new project module and I can create a record here. I can go into the projects table and I can see a new button coming in here. That is because I have the admin role, and since I have the admin role, I am able to do so, right? But in the other case of resource management user, the resource management user is not admin. That user has just a RMW user role, right? And since that user has just RMW user role, he will not be able to create a record in there. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, we got it.
Okay. Now,
Yes,
my question is, if that is the case, if I can create access control rule, why don't I have this field writable here? All those records that we see here are read only. I cannot do so. See, this is not allowing me to do so. So let's put our thinking cap on, and yes, I can remember that to create access control rule, I need to have one additional privilege. Even if I am an admin, I need an additional privilege, and the privilege is to elevate this security level from here. So I need to have a session specific role, which is security admin, in order to create an access control rule. So I'll elevate my privilege here and I'll make myself a security admin, right? And then I'll go back to my studio and I'll reload my form and try to see if these fields are writable now. Here we go. Now the fields are becoming writable, right? So I can go ahead and choose the operation that I want to perform, not just create, read, delete, and write, which is update. Apart from that, we can have edit task relation, edit CI relation. These type of operations we can have in there. We are talking about create operation right now onto the table. Okay, so this is the type record. This is the type operation is create. Admin can override it, right? So even if you do not want this admin to override this, you can uncheck it, right? So if you uncheck this, then admin will not have a direct privilege to go ahead and create a record into that table. Even admins will not be allowed to create a record into the table. And that is something happens. If you go to the access control table, this is also a table, but can can we go ahead and create a record into this access control table? We cannot create that if we have this security admin privilege disabled for now. So let's say if I disable it for now and I go back to ACL, see, I do not have that new creation button here, right? New record creation button. That is because we have created one access control rule onto the access control table saying that even admins cannot create record into this, only security admin can create record into the access control table, right? So by having this checkbox checked onto my admin overrides into the access control rule, I am allowing the admin to overrule this access control rule that we are creating and let the admin write into the table, right? But you can choose, this is your discretion, you can choose if admin can override or not, right? All right, let's go down. So here is the role. I tied this admin role, for example, for demonstration, I tied this admin role here, and I am requiring that admin should be able to write onto this table only, right? Nothing else. Nobody else can do so. So I added this admin role in here. If you want to add a condition, all right, so you can add any condition in here. The condition will make sense in case of write or delete that we have done earlier. So if I go onto the right, let me see if I have I don't have any condition mentioned here, so I'll go on to delete. So remember on delete operation for that record into the projects table, I was saying that I can delete this record only if the project owner field into the form is containing my name. So if the person is if the record contains the project owner as myself, then only I'll be able to delete that record. Otherwise, I'll not be able to delete that record. So here we go. So that is what we have done. So for example, I have hard-coded it here. I am writing project owner is resource management user. So I can only delete a record where I am the project owner. Otherwise, I cannot delete it. So this is what it says, right? So this way, what we have done is we have implemented a couple of access control rules, which are the default access control rules there, right? The only thing is I edited these access control rules to accommodate new roles in there and the condition in here. Additionally, you can have your script applicable as well. So you can make use of this script by clicking on this advanced button, advanced check, not button, advanced checkbox. So you can you can tick this advanced checkbox here, scroll down, you can have your script written here. When the script evaluates to true, and the user has this role and the condition is satisfied, then this access control rule will allow that logged in user to perform that operation there. What operation? In this case, the operation talked about is the delete operation. Okay? So this is how the access control will work. So this is what we did earlier. So let's go back and remove this security admin role from administrator right now. And I'll go back to my impersonation for the resource management user. And then I'll go here. I cannot create because I am restricted to do so. I can go here into projects. Can I delete a record? Of course, I can delete this record. I'll go here and try to delete it. I am able to delete it. Can I delete this one? Let's see. Oh, I have to unselect this one. Can I delete it? I cannot delete it, right? So this is what our access control rule is doing for us. Making sense?
Yeah, Rahul.